maybe a little less intimidating because Jalen Hurts is hurt. We don't know the extent of the injury. Looks like he's going to miss against the Cowboys. The line immediately jumped up from Cowboys -1.5 to Cowboys -6. So the market doesn't think that Jalen Hurts is going to play, but hopefully it's just a 1-week injury.
Yeah, we'll see. It's not serious. Now, it's interesting. A bunch of different things, a bunch of different reactions here as we watch the play where it happened. Hurts on a run, and it just sort of gets slammed into the ground by the cheating Bears. You know, like don't they? Cheating Bears.
You allowed to make a tackle?
No, not allowed. Not against Jalen Hurts. Not against my fantasy ride or die. They should gently invite him to the ground.
Oh.
Hey, right? They put a pillow down. Something like that. Just, hey, Mr. Hurts, would you mind laying down on this soft blade of grass here?
Ugh.
Because I've reached you and I don't want to hurt you. And that's sort of what should have happened.
Not responsible from Tayshaun Gibson knowing that it's Matthew Berry's fantasy ride or die
at
stake here.
Just be polite. Be the right thing to do. So a lot of reactions to this. First off, just in terms of the news.
Yes.
I think this is, I know this seems dumb for me to point out. And it's petty, but I actually think it's important in terms of doing fantasy analysis, in terms of reacting to stuff. Not every source is to be trusted. Not every source that has a blue check mark on Twitter is to be trusted. So a random ABC News producer, I think, or a producer that works for ABC, it may not be ABC News, producer that works for ABC tweets out, but he's verified. And he works for ABC, right? So in theory, credible. Tweets out that per source, he's broken his collarbone, is done for the year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people start panicking. And you're like, well, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and so, I mean, because we have national reporters that get stuff wrong. And so now you've got this guy, like, from left field. Like, what? So it's always important to check the sources. I will tell you this. At ESPN, sometimes we weren't always first with the news. Like, and you guys, look, I'm not at ESPN. I don't need to carry that water anymore. Like, but I will tell you this. I will say this in deference to my former colleagues. There is that they take that seriously, and every once in a while they will get something wrong. But the people, the news reporters, and I never was one of them, but the news reporters at ESPN rarely get stuff wrong, especially compared to a lot of the other industry. And sometimes they are not always first, but they confirm it, they double confirm it. They're really good about that particular aspect of it. And so, regardless of whether it's Schefter or Mort or or Field or Darlington or Diana, any Graziano, any of the guys that do that, or look, whatever. Jay Glazer is really good. I think Tom Pelissero of NFL Network's really good. Albert Breer's really good. Like, there's a number of guys out there that when they tweet something, you can more or less take it to the bank. But the important thing is like, I just think, like, check the source,
yes.
Right? So anyway, news after the producers sort of told nope, wrong. Remember there was another ABC News reporter that like tweeted something about, what was it? Was it Kobe? Something about Kobe? Anyway, I don't know. They awful stuff. Anyway, back to Hurts. It's not that serious. It is a sprained right shoulder. It is his throwing arm. To your point, the line moved immediately. He is uncertain to play against Dallas. The game is Saturday, so it's a short week here. But it's also a massively important game for the NFC East, for the number one seed in the NFC. I am not ready to say, oh, Hurts isn't playing. My DMs, my texts, my Twitter feed is filled with, what do I do? What do I do? I just lost Hurts. And I'm like, I don't know that you did lose Hurts. No, maybe you did. And you need to prepare as if you're not going to get him. But I'm not ready to full-on panic. And I'm wearing this jersey in solidarity and belief that my brother, my ride or die, my beloved Jalen Hurts will play this weekend. If he does not, hopefully he will play the following week against New Orleans in a home game against New Orleans. It's interesting, right? The first game between the Eagles and the Cowboys, it was Cooper Rush against Jalen Hurts. And now we might get Gardner Minshew against Dak Prescott. We don't get Jalen Hurts versus Dak Prescott potentially.
Yeah, we'll talk about Gardner Minshew when we get to quarterbacks on waivers, but I think the concern would be for if you have Hurts on your roster is that the Eagles just need to win one of the last three games. They don't need to win this game. They just need to win one of the last three, and they clinch the 1 seed. They clinch the NFC East. And actually, because of the deal they made with New Orleans, it's actually more important, the New Orleans game for them, because it affects the draft pick that they're going to get.
Right. If they beat New Orleans is, in fact, worse, and so it lowers their draft pick, which is a pick that's going to go ultimately to the Eagles.
And also, I don't think if you're dealing with a sprained shoulder and you're basically one of the 3 Super Bowl favorites, do you really want to send Jalen Hurts out there on the road against Micah Parsons? Like, do you really want to do that? Or do you want to give him an extra week and then just win one of the last 2 games where they'll be heavy favorites against the Saints and the Giants?
You know what's frustrating?
What's
Can I tell you
frustrating,
what's frustrating? Is that everything you just said is logical. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here in my Jalen Hurts jersey wearing green-colored glasses.
Well, you're an
being
Eagles
like,
fan.
come on, Jalen's going to play through it. He wants to win the MVP. He needs all the stats he can get. And the truth of the matter is everything you just said is logical and right and smart. And we will see. Stranger things have happened, but certainly you need to prepare as if Jalen Hurts will not be available for you for this week. So we will talk about Gardner Minshew and other options at quarterback when we get to the waiver wire here. I think as it relates to other players on the Philadelphia Eagles, I think you're still starting the normal guys you would. You're still starting A.J. Brown. I think you're still likely starting Miles Sanders, against Dallas. Again, I think he's going to be a lower-end RB2, but
I think you're definitely starting Devontae Smith because they're going to be throwing it more.
They are going to be throwing it more. But, I mean, listen, last month, Cowboys are 18th against the run. They haven't been dominant against the run. Honestly, the entire defense, they're a bottom 12 pass defense over the last month. I mean, we just saw the Jags,
put up 40
on them, and the Texans moved the ball. I mean, the freaking Texans with Jeff Driscoll and Davis Mills at quarterback. Right, so the Cowboys defense is playing a little bit on reputation recently. One thing that's important is just prior to the show, Dallas Goedert officially activated, for the Cowboys. The expectation is that he will play. Dallas Goedert will play against the Cowboys on Sunday. Worth noting that Dallas Goedert's best game last year, and in fact, his career best fantasy game in his life, came with Gardner Minshew last season when he played the Jets. He went 6 for 105 and 2 touchdowns in Week 13 last year.
Yep.
So that's the only concern with Devontae Smith, that a lot of Devontae Smith's production has come with Goedert out of the lineup. Now you've got Goedert here. They're playing the Cowboys. Smith is a risky wide receiver 3. He's a risk reward, and as we get further into the week, it sort of depends. But all I'm saying is that I don't care who the quarterback is, you're starting A.J. Brown. I don't care who the quarterback is, you're starting Dallas Goedert.
Yep.
I think there's a question about Devontae Smith, and he's been so good that maybe you don't, but it just, you know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm not ready to say, I don't care who else is on my team or looking at anything else. You're automatically starting him.
And you're starting Miles Sanders as well. Let's go to the New York Jets, my New York Jets.
Yeah.
As we transition from your team, the Philadelphia Eagles, to my team, the New York Jets. And
what's amazing is that, at the beginning of the year, when you decided to do this whole flip-flopping bit where you're just I'm just going to go to whatever the team is, or I started with the Jaguars and, moving around. The Jets have hung around longer than I would have thought for you, because you're a bandwagoner guy.
I am.
And so it's a credit to the Jets season that you've kept Fickle Jay, around as long as
They're a really likable team.
Yeah.
Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Quinnen Williams. Zach Wilson, not so much, but Mike White, yes. But it's going to be Zach Wilson.
Salah's good at the
Salah's
press conference.
Yeah. Big, strong.
Yeah.
Gives you a lot of confidence, Robert Saleh.
Yeah, he does.
Zach Wilson doesn't give you a lot of confidence, and he is going to be starting as Mike White has been ruled out against the Jags. And I'm very concerned, fantasy-wise, betting-wise, around the Jets, because it's going to be raining in New Jersey on Thursday night. It's also going to be Zach Wilsoning, which is a problem because, look, he made some big throws against the Lions. He also made some of the worst throws I've ever seen an NFL quarterback throw. So, look, he delivered enough fantasy value for Garrett Wilson, who was 4 for 98. But outside of that, I'm not feeling good about any Jets. I guess you're starting Bam Knight because of the volume, but I think it's down across the board.
Yeah, I mean, I think that assuming health for Bam Knight, I think you do. It's a better matchup.
Yes.
As bad as Detroit is in the secondary, they actually have a pretty good run defense. And, the Lions playing with some momentum here. Obviously, the Jaguars also playing with a lot of momentum here. But Jacksonville, only one team in the NFL over the last month has given up more points per game, just in general, in NFL scoring, right? And it's a 27th ranked pass defense. It's a 23rd ranked run defense. Pick a stat. Their defense is bad, specifically recently. They also give up the 6th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. So if there's a glimmer of optimism, it is this matchup where Jacksonville has to travel on a short week after playing a long game. Remember, they went to overtime against the Cowboys. So now they're traveling on a short week after playing such a long game against Dallas. Look, Zach, I think they're better. If you just lost Jalen Hurts, I think they're better streamers. We're going to get to them in a second. But I do think you're starting Garrett Wilson, you're starting Bam Knight. Elijah Moore does have 23 targets over the last 3 games, did get some looks from Zach Wilson. So if you're truly in a pinch, maybe, possibly. Yep. We'll see if Corey Davis comes back for this game on Thursday. But I agree, the only ones you feel really good about are Bam. You don't even really feel good about Bam Knight, but you feel good about Garrett Wilson, and you feel usable. Bam Knight, I think, is usable, and because of the matchup, and because rainy. They want to go back to Zach Wilson, hiding Zach Wilson offense versus the it's we're going to let it fly.
I think so. Jets are 1-point favorites in that game. The total is 38. Cam Robinson also torn meniscus, so that could be a problem for Trevor Lawrence and the Jags pass catchers too. Let's talk about Jonathan Taylor. Been a rough season for JT after he was the best running back in football last year. He has a high ankle sprain, likely out for the rest of the season. So bad news for JT, and fantasy-wise, good news for Deion Jackson and Zach Moss.
Yeah, really disappointing for a guy that was the consensus number one player in fantasy across the board as well. Had only 2 games as a top 5 running back. Had only 2 games with over 20 fantasy points as well. Under 100 yards from scrimmage in 80% of his games. I mean, the Colts just as a whole, as a team, just completely tanked this season. What a weird year for Indianapolis. Like that's how crazy this year has been, right? That when you think about sort of the meltdown, the meltdown in Las Vegas, against the Patriots, whatever we call that play, and you think about just sort of the nuttiness of all of it, right? And that the fact that
lateral damage.
And Baker Mayfield, literally 48 hours after getting off a plane, leading a comeback. The fact that an NFL team picked a guy out of a TV studio who had no coaching experience whatsoever, and then and threw him onto the sideline.
And he won his first game.
And he won his first game after 3 days. That doesn't even register as one of the 3 weirdest things that's happened this year.
No.
And so just insane. It's just been an awful year for the Colts as well. Disappointing year obviously for Jonathan Taylor. He will be back better. This is the other thing is that according to Joel Erickson, Jonathan Taylor said he has never missed a practice. Forget game. He's never missed a practice in high school, college, or in the NFL prior to this year. That was one of the arguments about people drafting him at number 1 and people didn't want anything to do with McCaffrey is because, this guy is safe. He's literally never been hurt. And he did miss a practice in week 3, and now,
I think
he missed his first practice, I should say, in week 3, and then it's just been
This is a big thing in betting in terms of projecting players. You don't read too much into how injury-prone or not injury-prone a player is in a contact sport, because you're injury-prone until you're not, and you're not injury-prone until you are, and that shouldn't be the main deciding factor. Christian McCaffrey, who everyone thought was Mr. Glass and unbreakable, has been fine this season. He's been very healthy. He looks the best he has in years.
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley's been dealing with some stuff, but for the most part, totally fine this year. Jonathan Taylor, completely the other way. So it just changes. So don't factor in health overly.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.